Hey guys, this is Joby Shaw with Let's Learn Archery, and today I'm going to go over a question that I get asked a lot, and that is, Joby, how do you hold a bow better? And there's several ways to look at this, but really only one real answer, and it's two things. It's draw length and stabilization. So I like to find draw length before I do the stabilization. So in order from draw length to stabilization, that's how I would set up, let's say, a new bow. And this is more of a tip for veteran shooters or people that have been shooting a long time and just want to find that little bit more of a competitive edge. So draw length is the overall feel of your shot. And that is where everything lines up really good, so you're at a very minimal movement until your shot actually fires. So that is whenever I'm going to run through my shot cycle a little bit, I'll draw back above my head a little bit. As I'm coming down, I will lock my back in and then slightly push into the target. That's going to lower this shoulder and get a really good structure here so I get no collapse, and that my back is tight so I get no dip bang. And the reason that I'm pushing down on the target and getting really nice and solid here and getting really nice and solid in my back, so that I know if both of those points are locked up right, that my draw length is right. I do want a slight bend in my front arm, but I do not want it to be so long that I physically have to put more hand into the grip than getting my forearm closer to the bowstring, ultimately slapping my arm. So there's a fine line that you have to ride there. And as far as minimal movement, I want to be able to either set up on my back tension with just a little bit of movement after my click to fire my bow, or be in a position where I can physically put my thumb on the trigger and then squeeze off the shot. So once I've got my draw length really close, and like I said, I already know a really close proximity to what it needs to be. Say I got my peep the way I want it, whatever. I'm really comfortable with full draw. My D-loop length is also a really critical feature in how my overall setup is on my draw length. So there's a position where we all anchor in our face. And if you're shooting a different peep or a different axle length, that D-loop is going to differ. For a longer axle-to-axle bow, for me, I shoot a slightly longer loop. For a shorter axle-to-axle bow, I shoot a shorter loop. So that can and will go into effect to making that overall feel a lot better and more stable for you. The second thing I want to go over is stabilization. Now, stabilizers can be put 100 different ways, and there can be a lot of things that can come in to play when setting up stabilizers. One of the most important things with setting up stabilizers for me is getting the mass weight of the bow correct with the amount of stabilizers that you have on the bow. We're only so strong as human beings. So we all have an optimal point where we're going to hold our bow up, the steadiest. Now, the length of your front bar and the amount of weight that you have on your front bar and your back bar length, weight, and position is all critical. And that is something that you're going to have to play with. I personally like setting my stabilizers where they're slightly downhill and as close to the bow as I can get it without it tilting right. But I want it in a place where I can draw back with the bow perfectly level and I'm able to see right the dead center of my bubble and make sure that everything is centered on the bow. And then I will adjust the bar up and down until my pin sets still on the target. I personally have a stabilizer weight that I go to for a lot of things, and that is 4 to 7 ounces on the front and 14 to 17 on the back. That is what works for me. That is a very, very, very popular stabilizer weight, and a lot of people are successful with that. So if you guys are wanting to move to the next step and you think that that may work for you, you can give that a try. I like to run my back stabilizer roughly between the top and halfway down through my cam on the lower mount hole on my TRX 40. I have used that for a long time and it has worked for me for the most part. If you have adjusted your stabilizers left to right, up and down, and you've done all that, and you still have a little bit of left and right wiggle in your pin, you're going to want to add weight to your front bar. If you have any up and down movement, you're going to want to add weight or subtract weight from your back bar. And that is going to give you the best stabilization possible. Another thing that you guys can work with is actually mounting your stabilizer in the top hole and the bottom hole. That together with your shot technique can and will, you will find a spot that is going to be most comfortable and accurate for you. Now I want to give you guys the third tip. There are two main, but there's one other thing that is pretty important. Holding weight does kind of come into play in this, and I didn't want to talk about it as a main thing, but most of our target bows are going to be in 70 and 80% for the most part. And this is more of a tip for target people right now. It can go hand in hand with hunting, but for right now, I'm pretty much just going over my target setup. Holding weight for me, I want it to be between 16 and 20 pounds, but mostly between 16 and 18 pounds. That allows me to be able to set up with really good structure, pull into the bow a certain amount, and get my shot to go off the best possible way. Again, guys, I hope this tip helps you. I hope you may have learned something from this. If you did, please like this video, add it to your collection so that you can come back and watch it as a future reference for something you may be struggling with in the future. Always remember, guys, God loves you and God bless, and you guys have a good day.